The envelope sliced open like a vein, spilling its sterile white contents across my dorm room desk. And there it was. A pie chart of my DNA that didn't match the family photos lining my mom's fridge back in Ohio. "You're not who you think you are," the email subject line had mocked me that morning, but nothing prepared me for the match notification, 99.9% identical twin-level link to some stranger named Jordan Hale from across the state line in Indiana. I stared at the screen, heart slamming like a bass drum at a frat party, wondering if this was the universe's cruel joke or the key to why I'd always felt like a ghost in my own skin. My phone buzzed before I could even process the name. A call from Mom, her voice cracking through the line like thunder on a clear Midwest day. "Alex, honey, we need to talk about that test you took. God, I never wanted you to find out this way." Her words hung there, heavy as the humid air before a storm, and in that split second, the world I'd built brick by brick, varsity soccer captain, golden boy of Elmwood High, the kid who fixed everyone's problems but his own, crumbled into a question mark bigger than Lake Erie. I bolted from my room, sneakers slapping against the cracked linoleum of the freshman hall, the paper clutched in my fist like a grenade pin half-pulled. The campus quad stretched out under the late September sun, golden leaves swirling like confetti at a funeral, and I didn't stop until I reached the edge of the reflecting pond, where the water mirrored my fractured face back at me. Who the hell was I if not the son of Rita and Tom Whitaker, the boy who'd learned to throw a spiral from his dad and bake apple pie from his mom? That question burned hotter than the cheap bourbon I chugged last weekend to drown out the ache of another failed hookup. The one where the guy's eyes had darted away when I whispered, "Stay," after we'd fumbled through the dark. I collapsed onto the bench, the wood groaning under me like an old friend bearing too much weight. My thumbs flew across the screen, searching for Jordan Hale. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, until I hit pay dirt. A profile pic of a guy with my same sharp jawline, but his eyes were a deeper green, like the woods behind Grandpa's cabin, and his smile had an edge, a quiet defiance that made my stomach twist in ways I couldn't name. He was a sophomore at Purdue, studying environmental science, posting about trail runs and climate protests, the kind of activism that made my own half-hearted recycling efforts feel like child's play. Our lives, parallel lines that shouldn't intersect, now tangled in this genetic knot. The call to Mom came first because that's what you do when the ground shifts, you reach for the anchor. She picked up on the second ring, her voice muffled like she was holding the phone too close, breath hitching. "Alex, baby, sit down. Your dad and I. We always knew something was off, but the hospital swore it was nothing. That night you were born. The storm knocked out the power, nurses scrambling. It's no excuse, but..." She trailed off, and I could picture her in the kitchen, twisting that dish rag she'd had since I was in diapers, the one stained with spaghetti sauce from 1,000 family dinners. "Knew what, Mom? That I'm not yours." The words clawed their way out, sharper than I meant, and I heard her gasp, a sound like glass shattering in slow motion. Dad's voice rumbled in the background, low and steady. "Let me talk to him, Rita." Then he was on, the man who'd taught me to fish at dawn and fix a flat tire by noon, now sounding like a stranger. "Son, we love you. Always have. But yeah, the test. It lines up. We got a call from the Hales this morning too. They're good people from Bloomington. Jordan's their boy, but biologically, it's you." The world tilted, the quad's chatter fading to a dull roar. Frisbees slicing air, laughter bubbling from study groups. As I gripped the phone like it was the only thing keeping me from freefall. Bloomington, Purdue, Jordan. Pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known was missing, snapping into place with a violence that stole my breath. "Does he know?" I managed, voice cracking like dry earth under summer heat. "He's on his way up," Dad said, and I could hear the strain, the unspoken fear that this revelation might rewrite us all. "Meeting at the hospital records office tomorrow. Neutral ground. We figured you'd want to. Meet him. Meet him. Like we were business associates or blind dates. Not two lives stitched wrong at the seams." I hung up, the phone heavy in my palm, and for the first time since puberty hit like a freight train, bringing with it confusion over the way Coach Ramirez's shoulders filled out his polo, or how my best friend's hand on my knee during movie night sent sparks I couldn't ignore. I let the tears come. Hot, unchecked, soaking into the collar of my hoodie. Who was I mourning? The family I'd lost, or the one I'd never had? That night, sleep was a lost cause. I paced my room, the fluorescent hum of the desk lamp my only company, replaying every milestone. My first steps on the linoleum of our ranch house in Dayton, Mom cheering like I'd won the Super Bowl. The sting of coming out junior year, Dad's awkward hug and "you're my boy," period. The hollow ache of college apps, chasing a journalism degree to tell stories that mattered, because mine felt too small, too straight-laced in a world that demanded bold lines. Now this, a twin, a brother, no worse, a mirror, holding truths I'd buried deep. By dawn, I'd messaged Jordan on Insta, casual like heard we might be related, crazy, right? And his reply pinged back fast. Understatement of the year. Coffee before the hospital circus? 9 a.m., Union Grounds. Attached was a selfie, him in a beanie against the crisp fall wind, that defiant smile pulling at me like gravity. I said yes because what else do you do when fate drops a bomb? You show up, debris and all. The coffee shop smelled like roasted beans and rain-damp pavement, a haven of mismatched chairs and indie folk crooning from hidden speakers. I spotted him before he saw me. Tall, lean like a trail runner, dark jeans hugging legs that moved with easy confidence. He scanned the room, green eyes landing on mine, and time stuttered. It was like staring into a funhouse mirror, familiar yet alien. My own reflection but with secrets etched in the lines around his mouth. Alex. His voice was deeper than I'd imagined, laced with that Hoosier drawl I'd only heard in old family tapes from Aunt Linda's side. Yeah, Jordan. We shook hands, palms rough from whatever lives we'd led. Mine from gripping goalposts, his from climbing rocks, and the contact lingered a beat too long, electric in the morning chill. We ordered black coffee for him, latte for me, because apparently genetics didn't dictate taste, and found a corner table by the window, where steam fogged the glass like breath on a cold mirror. So, he started, stirring sugar with a ferocity that matched the storm in his eyes. Our moms talked last night. Turns out the switch happened in '03, same hospital, Category 2 hurricane knocking everything sideways. Nurses mixed up the tags. Boom, Whitaker and Hale babies swapped like bad takeout. I laughed, a bark that hurt, because the absurdity was the only lifeline. And no one noticed? 21 years. He shrugged, shoulders tight under a faded Purdue hoodie. We were colicky infants, apparently. Cried the same. Ate the same. By the time anyone clocked differences. Me with my allergies, you with your. He paused, glancing at my empty ring finger, then away. Anyway, the Hales are solid. Farmers, mostly soybeans, that whole Heartland vibe. But me, I grew up feeling like the odd sock. Always questioning, you know? Like I didn't quite fit the mold. The words hit like a gut punch. Odd sock. That's exactly it. The itch under my skin at family reunions, the way I'd linger in the garage with Dad's tools, avoiding the small talk about girls and futures. Me too, I admitted, voice low. Thought it was just me, the gay kid in a straight-line family. But this? It's bigger. His eyes flicked up, sharp and searching. Gay? Huh. No judgment, just curiosity and something warmer like recognition. Makes sense. I'm bi, mostly guys though. Explains why I never gelled with the church youth group back home. The air thickened, charged like the moments before a summer squall, and we talked, hours bleeding away, about everything and nothing. His protests against factory farms, my op-eds on campus queerness, the shared phantom memory of thunderstorms that felt too vivid for strangers. By the time we parted, numbers exchanged and a promise for the hospital meet, I felt seen. Not fixed, not whole, but glimpsed in a way that made the ache bearable. The hospital loomed like a concrete monolith on the edge of Indianapolis, all sterile halls and echoing footsteps, the kind of place that smelled like regret and rubber gloves. Our families converged in the lobby. Mom and Dad, her in her floral blouse, him in khakis that screamed realtor off duty. The Hales, weathered like good leather, Mrs. Hale with silver-streaked hair and a quilted jacket, Mr. Hale broad-shouldered from years in the fields. Jordan and I hung back, a buffer zone of awkward solidarity. as the admins herded us into a conference room with folding chairs and a projector screen flickering to life. Records scrolled. Birth certificates, blurry Polaroids of squalling newborns. The damning wristband mix-up time-stamped 2:17 a.m., July 15, 2003. Mom's hand found mine under the table, clammy and trembling. Across from us, Mrs. Hale dabbed her eyes with a tissue, whispering, "He was always so fierce, our Jordan, like he carried a fire we didn't light." Dad cleared his throat, ever the mediator. "This doesn't change a thing. Alex is ours. Always will be. But it did change things." The drive back to campus was silent torture. Mom's Prius humming along I-70 as she replayed apologies like a broken record. "We should have told you sooner." "But how? You were happy, or seemed." I nodded, staring out at cornfields blurring gold. But inside, a chasm yawned. Happy? I'd been performing, scripting a life that fit the Whitaker mold. Straight-A jock with a side of sensitivity, while the real me clawed for air. Jordan texted that night, "Dying here. Families mean well, but it's like mourning a ghost. You up for a drive? Got a spot by the river." I was out the door before finishing the reply, grabbing keys to my beat-up Civic, the one Dad had co-signed with a proud grin. The Wabash River wound lazy under moonlight, fireflies winking like conspirators, and we met at a gravel pull-off, trucks and cars idling side by side like reluctant allies. He'd brought a cooler, beers, non-alcoholic for me since I was driving, and a blanket that smelled like pine and earth. We spread it on the bank, toes dangling toward the current, and the words poured out. The sting of farm life, where different meant whispers at the co-op. His first kiss stolen behind the barn with a neighbor boy who bolted after. Mine. The locker room taunts that sharpened my edges. The way I'd buried crushes under layers of bravado. "It's like we were built for each other's stories," he said, voice rough, and when his shoulder brushed mine, neither of us pulled away. That touch lingered in my dreams, a tether pulling me towards something uncharted. Over the next weeks, we fell into rhythm, weekend drives, late-night calls dissecting our fractured roots. Purdue-Ohio State rivalry be damned. We'd sneak into each other's games, cheering from the shadows, his green eyes finding mine across packed stands. Mom noticed first, her texts laced with worry. "Be careful, sweetie. He's family now, in a way." But blood or not, the pull was magnetic, a current deeper than DNA. Fall deepened, leaves carpeting campus in crimson and amber, and our connection bloomed quiet but fierce. Study sessions in the library turned to hands brushing over textbooks, coffee runs to shared silences heavy with what-ifs. One night, after a brutal econ midterm, we ended up at my dorm. Roommate out, thank God, and the air crackled as he traced the scar on my knuckle from a childhood bike wreck. "Tell me everything," he murmured, and I did, spilling secrets I'd locked away. The terror of my first pride flag, the loneliness of scrolling Grindr in the dark. His lips met mine tentative, tasting of mint and river water, and the world righted itself in that kiss, soft, searching. A homecoming to a place I'd never known. We didn't rush. It was hands clasped, foreheads pressed, whispers of, "I've got you," against skin. Romance in the slow burn. The way he'd leave wildflowers on my windshield. Notes tucked in. "For the guy who makes chaos feel like fate, but cracks spiderwebbed." The families clashed at Thanksgiving. Whitaker's hosting a tense potluck in Dayton. Hale's driving up with pies and guarded smiles. Dad cornered Jordan in the garage. "You're a good kid. But it's complicated." Mom pulled me aside, eyes pleading. "He's your brother, Alex. Biologically. What are people gonna say?" The word incest hung unspoken, a guillotine blade, and I saw the fear, not just of scandal, but of losing the sons they'd raised. Jordan overheard, storming out into the November chill, taillights fading down our cul-de-sac. My texts went unread for days, a silence louder than any fight. When he finally replied, it was a gut wrench. "Maybe Mom's right. This was a mistake. We're playing with fire we can't control." Betrayal stung. Not his words, but the echo of every rejection I'd armored against. I drove to Bloomington uninvited, pounding on his apartment door until he yanked it open, face raw with unshed tears. "You don't get to decide for us?" I said, stepping inside, the space cluttered with trail maps and protest posters. "This isn't about blood. It's about us, the us we chose." He paced, hands raking through hair that mirrored mine. "But it is, Alex. The Hales. They knew. Sort of. Dad found old letters last year, hospital cover-up whispers, but they buried it to keep me. To keep their family whole." The revelation landed like a sucker punch. Betrayal doubled, from the parents who'd swapped us into their worlds and chosen silence over truth. We argued through the night, voices rising then falling to exhausted confessions. His vulnerability cracked me open. The boy who'd hidden his queerness in flannel and fields, now facing a love that defied every label. Dawn found us tangled on his couch, not lovers yet but allies, forging a pact. "We tell them," he said, fingers laced with mine. "All of it. No more ghosts." Christmas loomed like a battlefield, but we armed ourselves with resolve. The joint family dinner, neutral turf at a Bloomington diner, snow dusting the windows like powdered sugar on a wound, unfolded in fits of forced cheer. Turkey carved, stories swapped, until Jordan cleared his throat, voice steady as the river we'd claimed. "There's more to this than DNA. Alex and I, we're together, not brothers, partners." The room froze, forks hovering, breaths held. Mom's face crumpled, Dad's jaw set like oak. The Hales exchanged glances, Mrs. Hale reaching for her husband's hand. "We switched you," Mr. Hale admitted finally, voice gravel rough. "Knew it early on. Your eyes, Alex, they're Rita's blue, not ours. But we loved Jordan fierce, couldn't let go. Forgive us." Tears flowed then, a catharsis long overdue. Hugs across the table, apologies weaving through the hurt. It wasn't clean. Wounds like ours scar deep, but in the raw honesty, healing stirred. Dad clapped Jordan's shoulder. "If he makes my boy happy, that's family enough." Mom whispered to me later, "I see it now, the light in you both. Don't hide it." Spring thawed the ice, our love unfolding like campus dogwoods, petals soft against the world's sharp edges. We navigated the stairs, the whispers at intramural games where I'd score and glance to his cheering section. Heart full. Graduation neared, futures diverging, me to a newsroom in Chicago, him to conservation work in the Smokies. But we plotted visits, a shared apartment someday, building a life from the ruins. One evening, under that same cherry tree where we'd first locked eyes, Jordan knelt. Not with a ring, but a locket etched with our birth date, inside a photo of us laughing by the Wabash. "You're my truth," he said, and I pulled him up, kissing him fierce against the bark that bore our story. Families blended, holidays a mosaic of traditions, Whitaker pies with Hale stories, proving love defies biology's crude lines. In the end, the shock faded to wonder, a testament that identity isn't forged in hospital tags or genetic maps, but in the choices we make, the hands we hold through the storm. We're not perfect. Arguments flare like summer heat, doubts creep like midnight shadows, but in each other's gaze, we find home. Two lives, once switched, now intertwined, writing a narrative bolder than any test result. Ours, unapologetically. Summer hit like a revelation, the kind that strips you bare and dares you to stand tall. Jordan and I escaped to the Hales farm for a week, trading city buzz for cricket choruses and the scent of turned earth. I'd never seen him so unguarded, shirtless in the fields, sweat tracing paths down his back as he showed me how to mend a fence. His laugh booming when I bungled the wire cutters. "City boy," he teased, but his eyes held hunger. The slow build of nights we'd stolen in dorms, bodies learning each other in whispers and tentative touches. One dusk, as fireflies ignited the meadow like living stars, we lay in the hayloft, hay pricking skin but neither caring. His fingers traced constellations on my chest, mapping freckles I'd always hated. "You know," he murmured, breath warm against my neck, "I used to dream of a brother, someone to share the weight. Never thought it'd be This. I turned, capturing his lips, the kiss deepening until the world narrowed to heartbeat and heat. It was romantic in its restraint. Passion banked like embers, promising more when we were ready, no rush to claim what time had already gifted. Back on campus for summer session, reality nipped at our heels. My op-ed on queer identity post-DNA drama went viral in the student paper, drawing emails that ranged from supportive rainbows to venomous slurs. Freak show, one anonymous note read, slipped under my door like a serpent's hiss. Jordan found me staring at it, crumpled in my fist. Block the noise, he said, pulling me to the quad for a run, our strides sinking like we'd trained together lifetimes. Sweat blurred the hate, his hand on my back a reminder. We were louder than their lies. But conflict brewed deeper, in the family's fragile peace. Mom called one rainy afternoon, voice tight. The neighbors are talking, Alex, about you and Jordan. It's not right. People don't understand. I paced my room, thunder rumbling outside like my pulse. It's our life, Mom, not a scandal sheet. She sighed, the sound of a woman who'd lost her script. I just want you safe, loved. But this, it's uncharted. Dad, ever practical, followed up. We're proud, son, but tread light. The world's not kind to stories like yours. Jordan's side mirrored the strain. The Hales, devout in their quiet way, hosted a family Bible study where whispers turned to questions. The good book says. Mrs. Hale began one night over pot roast, trailing off as Jordan's fork clattered. It says love your neighbor. He shot back, eyes flashing. And Alex is that. More. Mr. Hale nodded slow, but the air thickened with unspoken doctrine. A betrayal not of intent but inheritance. The rigid lines they'd passed down, now clashing with the fluid truth of us. We drove it out that weekend, heading to the Indiana dunes, where Lake Michigan crashed like untamed emotion. Barefoot on the sand, waves licking our ankles, we built a bonfire as dusk bled purple. Remember the first time? Jordan asked, roasting marshmallows until they charred just right. I grinned, pulling him close. Coffee shop. You with that smirk. Like you knew my secrets. He laughed, low and real, but shadows lingered in his gaze. What if they never get it? What if we lose them? The question hung, embers popping like doubts. I cupped his face, thumbs brushing stubble. Then we have us. That's the story worth telling. We made love there under the stars. Not urgent, but reverent. Bodies a dialogue of forgiveness and fire. The lake's roar our witness. It was the turning point, intimacy weaving us tighter, turning what if to we will. Fall semester ramped up the stakes. Classes a whirlwind of deadlines and dreams. I landed an internship at the local NPR affiliate, chasing stories on Midwestern resilience, farmers against floods, queer youth in red states. Jordan dove into his thesis on sustainable forestry, weekends vanishing into the woods with GPS and grit. Our schedules clashed like tectonic plates, stolen moments in the car or quick lunches where hands linked under tables. The betrayal struck mid-October, a Thursday that dawned crisp and false. I'd planned a surprise, tickets to an indie folk concert in Chicago, a night away from the grind. But when I swung by his lab, he was hunched over a laptop, face ashen. Alex, he said, voice hollow. We need to talk. My stomach plummeted. He slid a printout across the desk, emails, chain after chain from his advisor, laced with concern. Your personal life's bleeding into your work, Hale. That article about your situation is distracting. Pull back, or this fellowship's off the table. The advisor, a tenured prof with a bow tie and blind spots, had CC'd the department head. Betrayal, not from family this time, but the ivory tower they both climbed, now gatekeeping Jordan's future because our love didn't fit the straight narrative. Rage boiled, but hurt undercut it sharp. They can't do this, I growled, crumpling the paper. Jordan slumped, eyes distant. It's subtle, deniable, but yeah, they can. And if I fight, what then? Lose the shot at grad school? We argued in the parking lot, words whipping like wind through bare branches. Me pushing for confrontation, him retreating to self-preserve. "I can't be your martyr," he snapped, and the door slam echoed like finality. Days blurred into a cold war. Texts sparse, calls dodged. I threw myself into work, interviewing a trans activist whose story of small-town exile mirrored our fears. Her words a bomb. "Love's the revolution. Don't let them rewrite it." Mom sensed the fracture during our weekly call. Her voice soft. "Fight for him, baby, like we fought for you." It was the nudge, the reminder of her own battles. Raising a gay son in a cul-de-sac of conformity. I showed up at his apartment unannounced, rain-soaked and stubborn, armed with takeout from our favorite Thai spot. He opened the door wary, but the scent of pad CEW softened his edges. "Truce," I offered, stepping in. We ate cross-legged on the floor, silence companionable until he sighed. "I'm scared, Alex, of losing everything for us." I set my plate down, crawling to him. "You're not losing. We're gaining a life real, not scripted. And that fellowship? We'll find another. Together." His walls crumbled, tears mixing with rain on my shirt as we held on. That night we planned. A formal complaint. Allies rallied from campus LGBTQ center. My reporter's nose sniffing for patterns of bias. It wasn't easy, meetings dragged, emails volleyed like accusations. But in the fray, our bond forged steel. The advisor backed down, fellowship intact, but the win was Pyrrhic. It exposed the world's underbelly, the subtle sabotages queerness invites. Winter wrapped us in introspection, holidays a deliberate mending. We alternated Christmas with Whitakers, New Year's with Hales, each gathering a step toward integration. Dad and Mr. Hale bonded over tackle boxes, swapping fishing lies. Moms collaborated on a quilt, stitches symbolizing patched lives. Jordan and I stole moments in the barn or basement, kisses tasting of eggnog and promise, our love a quiet defiance. By spring, the climax crested like a wave held too long. Jordan's thesis defense loomed, a panel of suits scrutinizing his passion project on reforestation in marginalized communities. I'd prepped him mercilessly, mock Q&A over midnight coffee, but nerves gnawed. The night before, we drove to our river spot, blanket and beers ritual. "What if I choke?" he confessed, head on my lap. I stroked his hair, moon silvering the water. "You won't. You're the fire, remember? The one that doesn't flicker." He aced it, of course, panelists nodding, offers pouring in. We celebrated on the quad, classmates toasting with cheap champagne. But the real high was later, in his arms, whispering futures. Chicago for me, remote fieldwork for him, summers sinking in the dunes. Yet joy's shadow loomed. A letter arrived post-defense, from the hospital's legal team, class action whispers from other switched babies. A lawsuit brewing that could drag our story into headlines. The conflict peaked in May, sun mocking the storm inside. Reporters sniffed around, national outlets hungry for the gay twins scandal, and families fractured anew. Mom's voice cracked over the phone. "They'll twist it, Alex. Make it dirty." Jordan's resolve hardened. "Let them. Truth's our weapon." But privately, doubt gnawed nights where he'd pace, muttering about optics, the betrayal of public gaze stripping our intimacy bare. We confronted it head-on. A joint interview with a queer-friendly podcaster. Voices steady as we unpacked the switch, the love, the lies unearthed. "We're not a soap opera," I said, Jordan's hand in mine off mic. "We're human, flawed, fierce, finding our way." The episode dropped to acclaim, detractors drowned in supportive flood. But the toll lingered. Exhaustion, the weight of representation we hadn't sought. Graduation dawned brilliant, gowns billowing like sails. Families filled the stands. Whitakers and Hales a united front, cheers blending as we crossed the stage. Diplomas in hand, we met under the cherry tree, petals showering like confetti. "To us," Jordan toasted with a stolen flask, and I kissed him deep, uncaring of eyes. The shock of birth had forged this resilient, romantic, real. Post-grad life hit like a double espresso, invigorating but jittery, catapulting us from campus cocoons into the grind. I landed in Chicago, a junior reporter at WBEZ, chasing beats on urban inequality and LGBTQ rights. My byline a beacon in the Sun-Times queer section. Jordan, ever the wanderer, took a gig with the Nature Conservancy, based in Asheville but roving the Appalachians, mapping ecosystems scarred by coal's greed. Distance stretched us thin at first. Video calls flickering like faulty stars, texts a lifeline of "miss your laugh" and "dreamt of your hands." Our first real test came in July, heat wave baking the Midwest as I covered a pride march turned tense by counter-protesters. Sirens wailed, tear gas canisters hissing like vipers, and I dodged the fray, notebook shield. Jordan watched live stream from a motel in West Virginia, calling frantic, "Get out, Alex, now." His voice, raw with fear, anchored me amid chaos, a reminder that love's the truest dispatch. Safe later, nursing a bruised rib in my studio apartment overlooking the L tracks, he drove through the night, 8 hours straight, crashing through my door with burgers and bomb. "Can't lose you to headlines," he growled, bandaging me gentle, kisses trailing ribs like apologies. That closeness reignited the spark, weekends blurring city and mountains. He'd haul me hiking, teaching switchbacks and bird calls, my city-soft feet blistering but soul soaring. In turn, I'd drag him to rooftop bars, neon pulsing as we danced slow under string lights, his head on my shoulder to indie anthems. Romance deepened in these interstices. Notes in his pack, fuel for the fight, wildflowers pressed in my reporter's Bible. But emotion's tide pulls undercurrents. Alone in Chicago's hum, I'd trace our scars. Mine from soccer wars, his from brambles, and wonder if fate's switch was mercy or curse. Family dynamics simmered, a pot left too long on low. The Whitakers visited for Labor Day, Mom fussing over my bachelor pad. Read, futon and takeout boxes. Dad grilling Jordan on forestry stats like it was a job interview. "You're good for him," Dad admitted over beers on the balcony. City sprawl glittering below. Steady, like a keel in rough water. Progress, hard won, but Mom's eyes still darted, scanning for cracks. The Hales fared better, inviting us to the farm for harvest, where Jordan and I shocked sheaves, laughter echoing as we'd sneak kisses behind the silo. Mrs. Hale pulled me aside one golden afternoon. "You brought light back to him, Alex. After the switch, he wandered dark. Thank you." Yet betrayal's ghost lingered, manifesting in a letter from the hospital suit. Lawyers circled, depositions looming. Our story subpoenaed for emotional damages. "They want to parade us," Jordan vented over FaceTime, his cabin backdrop a blur of pines. "Reduce us to victims." I nodded, anger coiling. "Then we flip it. Tell our truth, not their tragedy." We prepped together, drives to Bloomington for mock sessions, his calm countering my fire. The hearing was a blur of fluorescent hell, suits droning, families in the gallery clutching hands. When our turn came, Jordan spoke first. The switch stole nothing. It gave us each other, a love deeper than bloodlines. I followed, voice steady. "Families heal. That's the real story." The judge ruled settlement. Reparations, apologies etched in legalese. But victory tasted bittersweet, spotlights drawing trolls who spat abomination in our inboxes. We weathered it holed up in Asheville, cabin a sanctuary of soup and symphonies, bodies entwined as storm winds howled. "You're my north," he whispered. And in that, climax crested. Not destructive, but transformative, love's drama yielding to devotion. Fall brought rhythm, my stories gaining traction. A series on rural queer elders, voices like Jordan's grandparents, resilient as root sellers. He contributed photos, trails framing faces weathered by time and tolerance. Pride swelled in collaboration, but suspense nodded when his contract renewed with a relocation clause. Alaska, wild and remote. 6 months, he promised over Thanksgiving turkey, but the word echoed like goodbye. Conflict ignited in December, snow blanketing Chicago as I flew south for his holiday send-off. Airport embrace turned tear-streaked, his flight boarding too soon. "Call every dawn," I demanded, kissing him fierce. Separation gnawed, Time zones warping days, his texts from midnight vigils under auroras, mine from dawn patrols at rallies. Loneliness amplified doubts. Was our love elastic enough for miles? Betrayal crept in subtle. A flirty colleague at my desk, his easy grin tempting in weak moments. Jordan's mention of a camp cook with shared silences. Innocent but insidious. The fracture hit Valentine's, my gift. A locket twin to his, engraved intertwined. Arriving late via storm delays. His reply video, weary eyes, cabin dim. Miss you bone deep, but this work. Smee Alex, saving what's left of the wild. Gratitude mixed with ache, but unspoken. The fear we drift into parallel lives again. I confronted it in a marathon call, voices raw across the ether. Are we breaking? I asked, heart hammer. Silence stretched. Then his laugh, broken but bright. Hell no, we're bending. Stronger for it. Spring thawed resolve. He returned bronzed and broadened, tales of glaciers and grizzlies spilling as we reunited in the dunes. Sand between toes, waves whispering, we renewed vows unspoken. Hands clasped, futures plotted. My promotion to features editor meant flexibility, his next post Midwest bound. Romance bloomed anew, a garden tended through tempests. Poetry readings in smoky bars, stargazing drives where we'd name constellations after our scars. But drama's not done. Summer unearthed a deeper wound. Digging through Hale attic for quilt squares, Jordan found the letters. Yellowed missives from the hospital, not just cover-up, but intent. A nurse's confession. The Whitaker boy seemed frilier. We thought the Hale's sturdy stock better suited. Deliberate swap, not accident. Rage roared. Betrayal absolute. Parents complicit in silence for 2 decades. We drove to Dayton unannounced, letters in hand like indictments. Families gathered in the living room, air thick as fog. You knew, Jordan accused, voice steel. Mr. Hale deflated. Suspected. Feared losing you to courts, to questions. Mom wept. We cherished the gift. But the lie, it poisoned. Confrontation raged. Accusations flying, tears carving canyons. But in exhaustion, empathy emerged. We chose wrong, Dad admitted. But love? That we chose right. Healing began tentative. Therapy sessions bridging divides. Families co-writing a memoir outline. Our story reclaimed. Emotion crested in a family bonfire. Letters consigned to flames. Ashes scattering like absolution. Jordan and I watched, arms linked. The fire's glow mirroring our inner blaze. By autumn, equilibrium held. My book deal on switched lives, identity and intimacy. His TEDx talk on ecological kinship. We moved in together, a loft in Bloomington blending farm charm with city edge. Bookshelves groaning, kitchen alive with shared recipes. Love matured, romantic in mundanity. Morning coffees, evening walks where hands swung free. Climax echoed in November, a gala for my series launch. Spotlight hot, Jordan at my side in a borrowed suit, his pride my pulse. As I spoke of resilience, his eyes locked mine. Unwavering, the switch's shock transmuted to strength. Q&A turned personal. How's love fit the chaos? A reporter probed. Jordan stood, voice resonant. It's the chaos's heart, the beat that binds. Cheers erupted, but our private afterparty. Slow dance in the loft, vinyl crooning. Sealed it. Forever's our plot twist, he murmured, and I believed. Winter's grip loosened into a tentative spring, but our story's undercurrents swirled deeper, pulling at threads we'd thought secured. The memoir collaboration with families turned outpouring. Late nights at the Hale kitchen table. Laptops glowing as Mom recounted the hospital vigil. Her water breaking under lightning's flash. Mr. Hale's gravel voice detailing the first wrong cry. Intuition dismissed as new parent jitters. Jordan and I mediated. Our love the glue, but resentment simmered. My pen hovering over betrayal. His edits softening to misstep. Truth without venom, he'd urge, fingers squeezing mine under the oak table. A silent vow to build, not burn. Professionally, winds shifted favorable. My book hit shelves with a splash. Reviews hailing it a poignant queer odyssey. Oprah's book club whispering in the wings. Jordan's talk went viral. Clips of his kinship beyond blood, mantra remixed into protest anthems. Invites flooded. Panels, podcasts, a documentary pitch from Sundance Scouts. We navigated the glare as a team, his steady hand in mine during green rooms. Our story no longer shock but symbol, hope for the fractured. Yet suspense coiled when opportunity diverged. A fellowship beckoned for me year in New York, immersing in national media at the Atlantic. For him, a lead role in a Yellowstone rewilding project, boots on ground in Montana's vastness. Timing's a bastard. He joked over diner pancakes, syrup sticky as our dilemma, emotion churned, excitement laced with dread, the switch's echo warning of separations sown in silence. We tabled it for a road trip, Route 66 Redux, from Chicago to Santa Fe, chasing horizons in my Civic, now with his dent from a rogue branch. Deserts bloomed improbable, red rocks mirroring our raw talks, fears of fading into the couple that was, dreams of adoption someday, raising kids with truths up front. One night in a Taos adobe walls cool against fevered skin, we made promises. Tattoos inked on inner wrists, coordinates of our river meet, 40.4259 degrees north, 86.8933 degrees west. Anchors, he called them, lips brushing the fresh lines, romance etched permanent. Return brought decision. I deferred New York, he scaled back Montana to seasonal. Compromise, humanistic in its humility. Love not conquest, but convergence. Families celebrated. A barbecue blending brisket and biscuits. Toasts to the boys who bent fate. But betrayal's specter resurfaced subtly. A tabloid hit piece. Switched lovers. Incest or inspiration? Splashed with paparazzi shots from the gala. Our kiss cropped sensational. Hate mail surged. Sponsors wavered on Jordan's project. Rage unified us. We lawyered up, countersuit prepped, but chose grace. A public letter in The Guardian. Our bond defies your boxes. Label it love. Leave the rest. Response tidal wave support. Allies amplifying. The piece's author backpedaling in apology. In the quiet aftermath, vulnerability peaked. Jordan breaking down in the shower. Water masking sobs. What if they win? Chip away till we're dust. I held him soapy and spent. Then we rise. Ashes to acorns. Remember? Summer solstice marked pivot. A vow renewal under our cherry tree. Now laden with fruit. Birdsong chorus. No officiant, just families circling. Hands linked in a human chain. We exchanged rings. Simple bands of reclaimed gold. Engraved with switched but chosen. Kisses sealed it. Soft amid cheers. Emotion cresting in tears of release. Honeymoon followed. Cabin in the Smokies. Trails our cathedral. Nights of stargazing where constellations whispered approval. Fall's harvest yielded abundance. My book tour a whirlwind of sold-out readings. Jordan's project thriving with community buy-in. Indigenous elders co-authoring chapters on land love parallels. We co-taught a workshop at IU. Identity unraveled. Stories of self. Students wide-eyed as we unpacked the switch, queerness as superpower. One kid, shy with a rainbow pin, lingered post-class. You make it possible. Jordan's arm around me later. That's the win. Climax brewed in November, election night fever gripping the nation. Polls tight, rhetoric toxic, anti-LGBT bills blooming like weeds. We volunteered at a Bloomington precinct, handing flyers till fingers cramped, faces alight with defiance. As results trickled, gains for equality, setbacks in red states, tension peaked in our loft, TV flickering doom. Jordan paced, eco-anxiety mingling with queer fear. If they roll back protections. I pulled him to the couch, debate forgotten in embrace. We fight, like always. Midnight brought upset, progressive sweep, our side's victories stacking like cordwood. Jubilation erupted downtown, we joining the throng, signs waving, chants rising. In the crush, a scuffle, protester shoving, Jordan shielding me instinctive. Fist connected with his jaw, blood blooming, but security swarmed. Our wait was agony, ice pack pressed, stitches 3. Worth it? He grinned through swelling. My kiss feather light on knuckles. Betrayal of the moment. Society's underbelly bared. Yielded to Bond's resilience. Love's drama scripted in scars. Winter wrapped recovery gentle. His bruise fading as snow quilted the world. We leaned into domesticity. Holiday cards co-signed the Whitaker's Hales. A pup adopted scruffy mutt named Erie, after the lake of my old doubts. Families merged fuller. Joint vacations to Florida Keys. Snorkeling reefs where Jordan pointed parrotfish. Whispering like us, vibrant, surviving. Spring's thaw mirrored inner bloom. New York called again, this time joint. Me at the mag. Him consulting for urban green initiatives. Move was chaos. Boxes labeled ours. Loft echoing empty then full. City pulse invigorated. Central Park runs our ritual. Skyline views from fire escapes where we'd plot podcasts. A joint venture. Switched narratives. Interviewing folks rewoven by fate. Emotion deepened in quiet beats. His hand on my nape during commutes. My notes in his lunch. Root for the wild one. Romance romanticized mundane. Picnics in Bryant Park. Sonnets scribbled on napkins. But conflict stirred when past collided. A high school ex of mine, now editor at a rival rag, pitching collaboration laced with flirt. For old times. He winked over drinks, Jordan absent. Guilt gnawed. Confession came clean, Jordan's eyes storming brief. Trust's our bedrock, he said. Forgiveness in the makeup hike up the Hudson. Views vast as absolution. Summer scorched with opportunity. A docuseries greenlit. Our lives lens for American kinships. Filming intimate. Home movies of the Switch reveal. Reenacted hospital storm. No actors. Just us in scrubs. Laughing through tears. Crew captured essence. Love's humanity amid hype. Premiere in Toronto buzzed. Standing ovation washing doubt. Critics crowning it. Tender triumph. Yet climax's shadow loomed autumnal. Jordan's health scare. A tick-borne Lyme from trail work. Fever spiking insidious. Hospital again, irony bitter. Tests ruling out worst. Antibiotics 4-drip. I camped bedside. Reading aloud from our book. His hand weak but warm. Scared me, he admitted post-release. Convalescing in our bed. Thought I'd leave you mid-story. Tears mine then. Fierce hold. Co-authors forever. Recovery reframed priorities. Slower pace. More presence. We volunteered at a youth center, mentoring switch stories and coming outs. Faces lighting like our own once did. Holiday glow warmed. Families toasting resilience. Pup Erie's tail thumped the heartbeat. By year's eve, under fireworks bursting over the East River, we danced slow, world watching or not. To plot twists, Jordan murmured, ring glinting. Love, dramatic yet domestic, had carried us. From shock's abyss to this apex, humanely whole. The new year dawned with deliberate intention. Our lives a tapestry woven tighter by trials. New York's clamor became canvas. Me pitching features on intersectional identities. Jordan greening rooftops with community gardens. Hands soil-stained as he taught kids to plant heirlooms. Evenings, we'd debrief over takeout Thai. Laughter punctuating the day's victories. His plot yielding first tomatoes. My story on migrant queer farmers earning a Peabody nod. Romance simmered in these simplicities. His surprise sonnet slipped into my briefcase. My playlist of trail anthems for his commutes. Families orbited closer, satellites synced. Spring break, Whitakers and Hales converged on our loft, couch surfing chaos. But joy in the jam. Mom's lasagna clashing gloriously with Mrs. Hale's cornbread. Dad's bonding over Knicks games, trash talk flying. Like oil and water, Jordan quipped, but I saw emulsion. Their hugs lingering, stories swapping scars. A backyard, balcony. Barbecue sealed it, grill smoke curling as we announced plans. A fall commitment ceremony, small, symbolic, rings renewed before loved ones. Suspense built with prep, venues scouted, a Hudson Valley orchard. Apples blushing like our blushes. Vows drafted in stolen hours. Emotion crested drafting mine. Words tumbling of the boy I met in a coffee haze, who became my compass. His, read aloud in bed. You switched my stars, Alex, from lost to luminous. Tears then, kisses salt-tanged, bodies a affirmation, no rush, but reverence, love's language fluent. Betrayal's final echo came insidious, summer's heat wave masking a chill. An old contact from the hospital suit resurfaced, a former admin, conscience pricked, emailing archives. Not just our swap, but systemic, dozens affected, cover-ups cascading. Your story cracked it open, she wrote. Rage reignited, but wisdom tempered. We forwarded to lawyers, fueling a foundation, switched lives fund, aiding identity quests with counseling, DNA stipends. Jordan chaired it, his fire channeled constructive. I chronicled, words weapons for the voiceless. Climax unfolded in September, ceremony day golden as Genesis. Orchard arched under apple boughs, families in folding chairs, Eerie the ring-bearer, leash tugged by a niece. Vows exchanged barefoot on moss, Jordan's voice steady. In chaos, you chose me. I choose you eternal. Mine cracked on brother to lover, stranger to soul. Cheers washing the break. Rings slid, now with latitude-longitude engravings, and the kiss, deep and declarative, sealed sacrament. Reception feasted farm fresh, dances delirious. Dads twirling moms, us slow under strings of lights, world a warm blur. Post-vow glow sustained through autumn's palette. Leaves flaming as we honeymooned in Maine, lobster boils and lighthouse walks, seals barking approval. Back home, the fund launched gala style, donors drawn to our unbreakable bond. A young speaker, switched at birth herself, trans and triumphant. You gave me script for my story, tears collective, purpose profound. Winter whispered challenges. A blizzard stranding Jordan in D.C. for a policy push. My deadline crunch birthing a novel from memoir bones. Distance tested, but tech bridged. Virtual dates with wine toasts, care packages of socks, his fetish, and seeds. Mine. Reunion was fire, airport dash, embrace crushing, loft alive with catch-up feasts. Spring's renewal mirrored inner, pregnancy talks tentative, surrogacy explored with a cousin's offer, dreams of tiny humans with our eyes, dual heritages. Families thrilled, planning nurseries cross-state. But drama dipped when health shadowed again. My anxiety spiking, panic attacks clawing post a drive-by threat at a pride event. Slur-scrawled note on my car, freak twins. Therapy doubled down, Jordan my rock. Breathing exercises by the radiator, affirmations etched daily. We channeled it outward, expanding the podcast to Echoes of Else. Survivor Tales Global. Guests raw. A Korean adoptee queer and questing. A Brazilian twin separated by dictatorship. Listens soared. Impact intimate. Emails of, you saved my unraveling. Summer solstice circled back. 5 years post-reveal. We revisited the Wabash. Blanket spread. Beers cracked. Remember? I asked, head on his lap. Envelope guts, world ending. He smiled. Fingers in my hair. Began. Fireflies danced, pup chasing shadows, as we tallied graces. Book tours tandem, fund flourishing, families fused. One big, beautifully broken unit. Emotions arc crested there. Sunset gilding water. Regrets? Jordan queried, voice soft. I pondered shock's sting, betrayal's blades, distance's daggers. None. Every twist trued us. Kiss followed, languid as the current. Love matured. Not fireworks, but hearth. Steady, sustaining. Fall harvested fruition. The novel dropped to acclaim. A fictionalized us in Midwest veins. Queerness quilted with humanism. Jordan's garden yielded enough for market stalls. His TED follow-up on rewilding roots policy shifting. Ceremony anniversary. Orchard revisit. Picnic under boughs heavy with fruit. Pie shared as we fed bites. Laughter light. Winter's hush brought gift. Surrogacy greenlit. Heartbeat first heard on ultrasound. A due date in spring. Families rallied. Ultrasounds framed cross-country. Joy tentative. Laced with awe. Our switch's legacy. Jordan marveled. Hand on belly via video. Life looping love. Climax's gentle wave. Birth in April, under cherry blossoms nodding. Boy named Riley, after Rita and Rivers. Tiny fists flailing, eyes blue-green hybrid. Holding him, Jordan wept. Perfect plot. Families swarmed. A cocoon of coups, the switch's shock transfigured to this legacy living. Years blurred benevolent. Riley toddling trails, babbling dada too. Sibling a girl 2 years on, wild as Jordan, sharp as me. Fund Global Now, podcast evergreen. We wrote sequels. Memoir Volume 2, Chosen Kin. Families co-authoring. Truths tenderized by time. In quiet eves, porch swings creaking. Kids abed, we'd clasp wrists. Tattoos faded but fervent. Stories end. I tease. Jordan's grin, defiant as dawn. Nah, epilogue eternal. Love, dramatic once, now domestic epic. Humanely happy, shocks echo a lullaby. And so, from DNA's decree to this domestic dawn, we stand. Switched, but sovereign. 2 students, once strangers, now stewards of a narrative vast as America. Flawed, fierce, forever entwined.